Mayor Price is in his third term as mayor, a small business owner and a staunch believer in networking and building solid, long-term regional relationships. Mayor Price is one of the community's strongest advocates. His participation in regional and national coalitions is helping Maricopa extend its reach and increase its regional recognition and influence. He is an executive committee member and a treasurer of the League of Arizona Cities and Towns, chairman of the Greater Phoenix Economic Council Ambassadors Program, a member of the Maricopa Association of Governments, Transportation Committee, Economic Development Committee, as well as a member of the Community and Economic Development Steering Committee for the National League of Cities, and thankfully, for all of us, a regular attendee or outright groupie, as he would say, of the very important 7-member Arizona State Transportation Board. And that's just to name a few. I'll tell you what, this man never stops. Put your hands together one more time for your mayor, Price!
All right, guys, let's go inside. Great job. Thanks for being here so far.
Thank you so much for being here tonight for the 2017 State of the City themed Overcoming Obstacles, which I think was fairly obvious by what you saw earlier. My name is Jennifer Brown. I'm the assistant to the city manager and proud resident of the city of Maricopa. I see all kinds of friends out there. So thank you all for being here tonight. We have been so excited for tonight and really know that this is a presentation that's not going to disappoint. We're hoping it's going to be even more exciting than the Diamondbacks game. Last I heard, they were up. So they're winning, and they were up by a lot. So spend all of your attention here learning all about the city. Now I'd like to ask all of you to stand as our Maricopa Police Honor Guard and Maricopa Cub Scout Pack 389 present the colors. They'll be led out by bagpiper Dave Mundy and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and the national anthem sung by Giselle Diaz.
Detail, halt, ready, face, set, coast, present, arms. Forward, march.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Giselle. That was beautiful. That was awesome. And thank all of you for singing along. That was beautiful. You may all be seated. Now there are some special guests here with us tonight that I'd like to introduce to you. I'd like to start off with our Maricopa City Council, Councilmember Peggy Chapados. Councilwoman Julia Gussie. Councilmember Vincent Manfredi. Councilmember Nancy Smith. Councilmember Henry Wade. City Manager Gregory Rose. From the Ak-Chin Tribal Council, we have Councilmember Delia Carlisle. Former Chairman Louis Manuel. State Representative Vince Leach. Pinell County Supervisor and former Mayor Anthony Smith. Judge Lyle Riggs. Constable Brett Roberts. From the Maricopa Unified School District Board members, we have President Patty Coutre. Member Tori Anderson. From the Maricopa Flood Control District, the President and former Council member Dan Frank. Former Maricopa Mayor Ed Farrell. And former Maricopa Mayor Kelly Anderson. Also tonight, we are honored all the way from Gilbert, Mayor Jen Daniels. There are also several members of our Maricopa boards, committees, and commissions here tonight. If you're an appointed member to any of those boards, I'd ask you all to stand now for some applause. Thank you all for your service, and thank you to this crowd. You guys are riled up tonight. I like it. I like it. So for the third year in a row, we've been honored to partner with the Maricopa Chamber of Commerce to help us gain sponsors to put on this annual event. And now I'd like to introduce to you Terry Crane to honor those sponsors. She's the president and CEO of the Maricopa Chamber of Commerce. Terry?
Thank you, Jennifer, for that warm introduction. The Maricopa Chamber of Commerce is honored to once again partner with our city on this very, very important event. It is my pleasure to introduce our wonderful sponsors who have made this event possible. Our gold sponsors, Global Water Resources, John Corwin is in the house. There's John. El Dorado Holdings, Mr. Jim Kenny. Our Lady of Grace Catholic Church, Ken Lepper and Kim Renfro. Thank you, gentlemen. Our silver sponsors, Apex Motorsports, or Motor... I'll just say Apex, we all know, not the other guys. ACP Painting, Mr. Russ Byers and his company. Members of the META Board, Chairman Bill Stacy. Maricopa Ace Hardware, Mr. Mike Ritchie. And Maricopa Real Estate Company, Mr. Steve Murray. And our bronze sponsors, Maricopa Music Festival, Home Smart Success, Dave Morgan, the Carlosito Real Estate Group, I hope I didn't butcher that too bad, the Planning Center, Home is Where the Hound Is, Maricopa Historical Society, and Pinnell Partnership. Thank you all very much for your support.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you, sponsors. This wouldn't be possible without all of you, so we sincerely appreciate it. So now, what you've all been waiting for, I give you Mayor Christian Price with the 2017 State of the City Address.
Well, thank you very much for being here this evening. Before we get started here, I just wanted to do something. Last night at council meeting, we had the opportunity to just have a moment of silence for, those victims that happened to be a part of the Las Vegas shooting, and so we just wanted to let everybody know that our hearts and thoughts are with them. On a lighter note, though, I think we're all here to have a good time tonight, and I'm really very appreciative that you all are here and that you've come, and I hope that we'll be able to tell a little bit about all the fun things we have going on in the city, and there's a lot. Get comfortable, because at least one of us have survived the zip line. You guys made it into the chamber, so congratulations. And you survived the heat outside, so now you get to listen to me talk. So the obstacles just keep getting worse around here, and I apologize for that. Well, tonight I'd like to tell you a series of stories that will hopefully help enlighten your understanding about all the work your city has put forward on your behalf this past year. I hope that you will see the results of that effort and what it truly means to you and your families, and really what it means for your quality of life here in the city of Maricopa. So before we get started here, who can tell me who this is? Anyone know? Not quite me. I know I'm getting on in years, but that's actually not me, no. This is a picture of a man by the name of Louis Zamperini. Now, if the name sounds familiar, it's probably because you've had the chance to either see the movie, or even better, you've read the book by the same name called Unbroken. So whether you knew of him or not, let me tell you a little story about his truly remarkable life. So Louis Zamperini was born in 1917 to poor immigrant parents. He grew up in Torrance, California, and from the very beginning he had a very challenging life and quickly became one of the city's most notorious troublemakers. He was a regular smoker by the age of 5, and he was drinking alcohol by the age of 8. He stole anything he could get his hands on from both local businesses and neighbors alike. And he got into fights almost daily. I tell you what, his parents were at their wits' end. Before going any further, though, with our story, it's important that you understand something. That at this time in the world's history, running events were the most popular sports of the day, okay? Specifically, distance running. People were infatuated with the idea of what the human body was capable of. What could it attain, and what could it overcome? In high school, Zamperini joined the track team to meet girls, of course, and yet after just a few races, he began to exhibit remarkable talent and athleticism. After lots of running practice, he began to set the state and national records, running the mile in only 4 minutes and 21 seconds. Louis turned out to be so good a runner that in 1936, at the age of 19, the youngest ever for distance runner at that time, he was selected to join the U.S. Olympic team for the Berlin Games in the 5,000-meter heat. During his official race, his youth and inexperience worked against him for the gold medal, and he placed 8th overall. Yet his last lap, he ran with such passion that he did it in under 60 seconds. This accomplishment so impressed everybody present that Adolf Hitler himself asked to meet him and shake his hand. Though he didn't win that day, Zamperini seemed to be on a path to greatness and destined for history in the sports of distance running. The greatest runners of the day believed that if any human was going to achieve a sub-4-minute mile, it was going to be him. Before he could prove it to the world in the next Olympics, his hopes were dashed by the start of World War II, and he enlisted in the Army Air Corps. In the Air Corps, he was stationed as a bombardier in the nose of a B-24 Liberator. During one mission, his plane was riddled with over 600 enemy bullets and shrapnel. And just after landing from that mission, he was assigned to a rescue mission, where his plane crashed into the ocean, and with only 3 of 11 men surviving that crash. Before the plane sank, he was able to salvage 2 life rafts, but they had almost no survival provisions at that time. Now, his little band of brothers was enduring an entirely new challenge, as they were faced with the blistering sun and heat, hunger, dehydration, and an ever-present horde of sharks that relentlessly stalked them, looking for their next meal. They were strafed by enemy aircraft, rendering their rafts almost useless. And just to survive, they were lucky to drink occasional rainwater and eat a captured fish or a raw live bird. Doesn't sound too pleasant, does it? During this tormenting ordeal, physically, each man dropped below 100 pounds in weight. While they floated the vastness of the Pacific Ocean, they did so for 47 days, until finally they were rescued/captured by the Japanese Navy. In total, they had drifted over 2,000 miles and had survived the unthinkable. While one painful chapter ended by being rescued from the unforgiving sea, life did not get any better for Zamperini. In fact, it immediately got harder. He was sent to 3 different prisoner of war camps where he was interrogated and suffered from disease and exposure, starvation, and near daily beatings from the prison guards. To make matters worse, his captors knew his reputation as an Olympian. While that helped save his life on multiple occasions from outright execution, it also meant he was singled out for especially cruel treatment and punishment. Sometimes the guard would make him run foot races against them, but when he had the courage to actually win those races, they would viciously beat him with clubs. At the war's end, having suffered and survived the prisoner of war camps, having endured gunfire, fear, hunger, thirst, exposure to the elements, disease, psychological anguish, extreme inhumane physical and mental torture, horrendous malnutrition, and in short, unparalleled misery, Zamperini's battle was still not over. Through all of this physical, mental, and emotional anguish that had been wrought upon him, after all that he had endured, one would think that he had earned more than his fair share of a well-deserved life of ease and relaxation. But that simply wasn't the case. Returning home to the complexity of work and marriage and family life, the crushing reality that he would not be able to return to the sport that he loved, as well as the physical real-life pains of post-traumatic stress and flashbacks and nightmares that plagued him every time he closed his eyes, that led him to severe alcohol abuse. With his life spiraling out of control and being on the verge of giving up all hope, Louis Zamperini found 3 things that changed his life forever. He found God, service to others, and forgiveness. With God, he found spiritual fulfillment that enlightened his soul and gave his miraculous life real purpose. With service, he went on nationwide speaking tours, telling his story, and with the money he earned from that, he founded and ran a wilderness camp for troubled youth, just like he used to be. With forgiveness, to the astonishment of many, he returned to Japan in 1950, to the prisoner of war camps where he had suffered significantly. While there, he visited those former guards that were now serving for war crimes in prisons of their own. He shook their hands, and he hugged many of them, and he outwardly and openly forgave them of all their brutal actions against him. Now, in 1998, Louis Zamperini returned again to Japan for the Nagano Winter Games to carry the sacred Olympic torch. You may not know this, but the Olympic flame actually represents our human achievements in this world and the ongoing struggle for victory over our challenges. How ironic that 62 years later, this man that seemed to face every single possible struggle would return to the site of some of his greatest difficulties to participate in the torch-carrying relay. Today's beloved tradition that was started in Berlin all those years ago. And while he never attained his possible destiny in the sport of running, instead he accomplished something far greater. He completed his journey as a champion and a hero of life. Now, while I don't think for a second that most of us here in Maricopa can directly compare our lives to that of a true hero like Louis Zamperini, yet if we take the time to look deep enough, I'm sure we can find some uncanny parallels that we can apply to the situations that we as individuals and as a city find ourselves in today. Indeed, hardships are part of our existence. They are part of growing, being tested and tried through difficult challenges while simultaneously overcoming incredible obstacles renders us two choices in life. We can recognize the hardships before us, and we can wither and shrink from the hurdles that face us, which in turn lead to further weakness and ultimately our demise. Or, choice number two, we can embrace the adversity that confronts us, meet them head on, and push forward with an unwavering resolution towards victory. These universal truths teach us that by enduring the real pains of growth, we are afforded the opportunity to build character, lengthen our endurance, and demonstrate our true strength. The attainment of what we deem to be success in this life that we are often so judged on outwardly, either individually or as a city, is not always what you see only on the surface. But rather, the true measure of success is often hidden far below the visible, buried deep in the layers of hard work, persistence, late nights, rejections, sacrifice, discipline, criticisms, doubt, failure, and risks. These are the things people often don't see when they outwardly measure success today. And tonight, I'd like to peel back for you some of those layers, just to show you some of the successes we've had this year as a city, and how what you see on the surface is not always the whole story. Sometimes these successes are a natural result of us basically or simply just doing our jobs. But more often than not, it took something more. Frankly, something a lot more. Sometimes it takes something so hard to explain that can only be expressed as a word that fits the meaning better than any other. And that word to me is grit. To further clarify what I mean, please pay close attention to author Angela Duckworth as she tells us what the term grit really means.
Perseverance for very long-term goals. Grit is having stamina. Grit is sticking with your future, day in, day out, not just for the week, not just for the month,
guys, can you turn it up?
But for years, and working really hard to make that future a reality. Grit is living life like it's a marathon, not a sprint.
So I love how she expresses it. I'll give you the link to that later if you missed it. But grit is sticking with your future day in and day out. Not just for the day, not just for the month, but for years. And working really, really hard to make the future a reality. Tonight I submit to you that Maricopa has what so many others do not. We have grit. We have to. In order to succeed in this competitive world and to overcome all of the obstacles that we face as a city, we have to have grit. I would like to tell you a few more stories tonight. And as I do, I hope that you'll listen closely to look for the deeper meanings behind the stories that I share. To discover for yourself if you think we have what it takes to succeed. Do we have that little something extra, that little added oomph, that decisive resolve to keep going? When others would have given up, this is what will allow us to cross the finish line with pride. This is good old Maricopa grit. Henry Ford once said, "When everything seems against you, remember that the airplane takes off against the wind." What a poignant and perceptive observation made by none other than one of the most famous automakers of all time. How convenient that my next story just so happens to relate to fast cars. If you've been following the local news or even my local Facebook page as of late, then you've certainly heard about a little soon-to-be local business called Apex Motorsports. Apex is an important addition to our community. Absolutely. They're right here. Wave your hands. Apex is a very important addition to our community for a variety of reasons, but certainly none more so than the simple fact that they are one of the largest new businesses to enter the Maricopa market in over a decade. While that obvious reason should have seemed sufficient to convince most people of their worth and their value to the region, that doesn't always turn out to be the case. Almost 2 years ago now, I received a phone call asking for a meeting regarding a business idea. After listening to the developer and the business owners of Apex present their ideas, I could not stop thinking about the ongoing potential business spin-offs that could happen from an industry locate of this type here within the city. After getting a first-hand look of a similar operation, we encouraged them to speak with city staff and begin the process of moving forward. After proceeding almost to the finish line, Maricopa and Apex were challenged in court over the permitting process. The opposition challenged the use of our zoning codes as to whether the process were correctly followed, whether we had to submit gathered petitions to the court for forcing a ballot referendum issue. Then in a separate lawsuit, as if the first one wasn't enough, the opposition further alleged that we had somehow harmed one of our residents' quality of life by allowing this business to get a permit and move forward. After over 2 years of extensive meetings, closely working with a brand of businesses that potentially has the power to be an enormous catalyst for bringing new people to Maricopa, business people, people that have the means and the wherewithal to further launch and encourage all types of complementary and ancillary businesses developments here in this city. I am proud to report to you that the city and Apex won both of our court cases, and now this development is moving forward. You know, creating something from nothing or doing something that no one else has ever done before is not easy. Ask anyone who has done it. They will tell you that it's probably one of the hardest things that one can ever go through in their lifetime. In order to get it right, you go through lots and lots of getting it wrong. Thomas Edison knew this. In fact, he failed at least 1,000 times before successfully creating his signature invention, the light bulb. Indisputably an invention that would truly transform and revolutionize the world. Once, when asked about these repeated failures, he said famously, "I've not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that aren't going to work." What a great perspective on the struggles of life. For those of you who know me, you know that I love to talk about the work that we do here in the city to encourage and foster new economic development each and every day. But folks, this work and its successes do not come fast and easy. In fact, it's a downright struggle. You see, getting a new business venture to go from a small indication of initial interest to actually opening their doors here in Maricopa is no insignificant task. In fact, this very, very time-intensive process goes a little something like this. First, we start by trying to meet new decision makers, business owners, brokers, real estate investors, venture capitalists, etc., etc., etc. After we start establishing a friendly business relationship with them, we must then start earning their trust and convincing them that they will find their potential successes here within our city. We then tour them throughout the city, hoping to find possible favorable location sites to their specific business idea. Then we get to spend thousands upon thousands of hours more additionally courting them, providing them newly updated information along with further assurances of success. We then work with them even more closely throughout the entire remainder of the process until their doors actually open. This is not simple. As you can see, this is not something that happens overnight, and certainly not without difficulty or without significant investment. This is not a unique challenge to establishing a business only here in Maricopa. It's a Herculean effort that no matter where it takes place, extreme devotion must be given by all involved. It literally takes an army of people dedicated to making it happen with an all-hands-on-deck approach, from our knowledge and business-minded staff to your electeds that make business development their top priority, and even the citizens that help use their connections to further the pipeline of business possibilities. As a quick side note here, just this past week, I was meeting with a developer, and he was complimenting our development services staff on the work they were doing in advancing a project he is working on pulling out of the ground. He made it a specific point to tell me that not only was the staff doing great work, but they were actually suggesting complementary amenities to go along with his proposed project. Now, those ideas surprised him at first, as he had never seen this before from a city's development services team. But after giving it some thought, he is actually now considering those suggestions and possibly adding them to his project, simply because of the suggestion. Folks, that is what it means to literally drive economic development. It means all hands on deck. As a 15-year-old city, we cannot rely on our name alone to drive businesses here. We don't have that luxury. Here in Maricopa, we have to do it the old-fashioned way. We have to work for it. We have to earn it. In a city such as ours, we do this through face-to-face networking, partnerships, building strong long-term relationships, and these are the cornerstones to making successful projects come out of the ground. One of these relationships that we have painstakingly cultivated over the last decade has recently been paying big dividends. A developer that has stuck with Maricopa through thick and thin and through all of our ups and downs. They continue to see the magnificent opportunity that the Maricopa market presents. This development group is called Vintage Partners, and recently they have helped by constructing new commercial buildings and facilitating the opening of new retail establishments like Freddy's and Starbucks and Chipotle, just to name a few. Currently, they have begun construction on the new Edison Point Plaza next to Fry's, and while I believe that we are all chomping at the bit to visit the new stores and shops that will be in this new commercial space, getting to this point has been no easy walk in the park. So here is Casey Treadwell from Vintage Partners to explain a little bit more of what happens behind the scenes in getting a project like this out of the ground.
Casey Treadwell. I work with Vintage Partners out of Phoenix. So we've been working on this project for quite a while. Officially broke ground a little over a month ago. We're still on schedule to turn the spaces over to the retailers in January and February. We purchased it from a lender after the previous developer lost it during the recession. Since Maricopa is only about 50,000 people, one of the difficult things with marketing a project like this when you have retailers like Ross is that they would much prefer there to be about 70,000 people. It's kind of their breaking point. We marketed it for probably 3 or 4 years before we really started to get traction. Goodwill was one of the first tenants, and they stuck with us through the whole thing. But it wasn't until Ross came on board that really changed kind of the dynamic of the project. There was a change of ownership with one of the anchors, and that new ownership, they decided not to move forward with the project, which was a major piece. And our bank said, well, you have to fill that because that's what we had all planned on. And we couldn't. We have since renegotiated with the lender and renegotiated with some of the retailers because they wanted everybody open at the same time, and shrunk the first phase and then kicked it off because we just had to move. We had to go. It's really the beginning of next year and next spring that you're going to see all these retailers start to open up. And we still have a lot of leasing to do, but getting over that first hump of starting construction, we feel the momentum's taken us in the right direction. Development takes a lot of time, a lot of work. It's not easy to be patient. We did it with a lot of Maricopa grit.
One of the things that I think is really important that everybody understand is how much work goes into a project like this. You often hear me talk about relationships and developing those relationships, and frankly how important those relationships are. For almost 4 years now, Vintage Partners and the city have been teamed together working to try and get this project out of the ground.
I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much for standing with us. It's nice working with a council that's focused as well, and it's nice having a community that's respectful and appreciative of the efforts that we're doing.
It's such an honor to work with a council that is proactive and takes retail development as important as the other sectors. All these grand openings are wonderful things that are leading Maricopa in the direction that we want to go into.
People ask us what cities we'd like to work in. Maricopa's at the top of the list, and we're really looking forward to getting this first phase open early next year.
That's the nature of having a vision, and it's the nature of really looking to the future and saying great things are on the horizon. These new business development challenges present themselves every day in our world, and every day we do our best to find balance between regulation and free enterprise. But as you look around Maricopa, the raw determination of both the business community and the city are paying off. This year, we have seen the completion of the Edison Road extension, which loops through the Estrella Gen Business Park, which is helping to drive the development of that location. The widening of Smith Inc., which had been in the works for several years. A new RFP for the Copper Sky commercial space, and other new retail establishments that have been built or on the early stages of construction, such as Culver's, Denny's, Filiberto's, Big Five Sporting Goods, and even more in the pipeline now. Now, while these may not be your first preferences for retail or dining experiences, I get it. But what it says to me is that together, as a community, we are honing our development skills. We are gaining experience, fostering excitement, and building momentum. This is how the dominoes of retail and industry-type businesses will sequentially fall. Teddy Roosevelt once said, "It's hard to fail, but it's worse never to have tried to succeed." As our young city of only 15 years old continues in its efforts to achieve success, we have front row seats to a natural evolution that is occurring here. In the beginning, Maricopa started as just sprawling farmland, and over time, commercial buildings and homes were built, and more businesses started taking hold. One of the things I am most excited about in our city's evolution is that we are now starting to see the official first generation of youngsters whose families had located here from somewhere else. These are the kids that grew up here in Maricopa, but now they have proceeded to leave for college, jobs, family, or other reasons. But we are also now starting to see them return home. We are seeing them return to Maricopa to work, to live, to raise their families. By doing so, they are putting down roots and further establishing their own traditions and passing them along to the next generation. One such person I'd like to introduce you to this evening is a recent Maricopa High School graduate and the 2013 valedictorian, Miss Carol Garcia.
My name is Carol Garcia. I'm a third grade teacher at Maricopa Elementary School. I have lived in Maricopa for 9 years. I graduated from Maricopa High School in 2013 as a valedictorian. After I graduated from Maricopa High, I went to ASU. I studied elementary education, bilingual education, and English as a second language. I graduated in 2017 in May, and starting March 2017, I was looking for jobs and then looking in Maricopa to see what opportunities there would be. I never attended elementary here, but I did attend the middle school and the high school, so I knew the teachers here were really great, and I just wanted to come back and be part of the community. I applied in March. I was looking for a position. Dr. Robinson called me, and I was super excited to come interview. Had an interview portion. I had to teach a lesson to some third graders, and that was really fun. It was a really fun process. It was important for me to come back to Maricopa because this is where I grew up, like for the majority of my life. I think it's a city that welcomes people from all over, whether it be different cities in Arizona or other states or other countries. I have scholars in here who are coming from other states and from other countries. So I think that's really cool. It's a really nice blend of people. It still has a small town feel. Even though it's growing, it's still nice to go to the stores and see some familiar faces. And it's nice to just walk around the neighborhood and know Maricopa has grit.
People want to come to the city, and more of them are figuring it out each day. We all know that you can't please everybody, but we also know that if we can just get people to come and experience Maricopa, they will fall in love with it. Indeed, how we got to this point in our evolution reminds me of an old business fable that I once heard. One morning, an old farmer was having breakfast with his son. The youngster, looking to the future and possibly to a bit of an inheritance, said to the old man, "Someday, I would like to take over the family operations and own and work the farm." The old farmer stopped and thought for a minute and then asked the boy, "How committed are you to the cause?" As the boy began to rattle off the farm work he had been doing, most of it half-heartedly at best, the man stared down at his breakfast. He suddenly interrupted the boy and stated, "As you can see, we are having a lovely breakfast this morning of eggs and ham. The eggs came from the chickens and the ham from the pig. Both are critical to the meal, but one of them is only involved, while the other is truly committed." Now, next time you have your breakfast in the morning, I know what you'll be thinking about. But I wonder, can we as citizens elected officials, and city staff, can we say the same about our commitment to the city of Maricopa? All of us are important to the outcomes of this city. We are all involved in some fashion, as evidenced by you being here tonight, for example. But I wonder, can we say to ourselves that we are truly committed to its success? Can we look in the mirror and say that we are all in, no matter how difficult, how challenging the impediments? When I think of those who are all in this city, I naturally turn my gaze to our small business owners. And we have lots of them, some 600 to 800 of them. For a city of 50,000 residents, that's a ton. Sometimes they literally bet it all. Or excuse me, there are very few of us who are more committed than they are. And sometimes they literally do bet it all, just to bring to the Maricopa market an increased quality of life, a service, a product, or a business idea that they have determined that Maricopa just needs this. How many times have you heard that? They sacrifice everything, their life savings, their time, their patience, their efforts, their hopes, their dreams, and their reputations. They take a giant leap of faith into the realm and the risk of the complete unknown. This task is not an easy one anywhere, but it can be especially trying in a newly formed and growing city like Maricopa. We understand that we lack thousands of square feet of private building space, office space, and space of all kinds. These are all necessary to the development and evolution of these small businesses. These are huge hurdles to overcome for those small business owners who are ready to pursue their dreams and grow their businesses right now. Yet despite this difficult reality, it's as Martin Luther King once said, "Only in the darkness can you see the stars." One of the stars that I see shining so brightly these days, regardless of all the obstacles in their way, is perhaps someone you've heard of. And in my book, not only are they stars, but they are 100% rock stars.
My name is Beth Mundell. I own Rockstar Cheer, and I realized there was such a need in Maricopa for a child's activity, some kind of a sport, something to keep kids healthy. We were borrowing space from different facilities. There used to be a CrossFit next door. We would use one of their mats. There was a gymnastics studio here. We'd use literally one of their mats. We were in parks. We were in, HOA's playgrounds. We were in, different places. And then that year actually took a national title. We had half of what a normal cheer floor is, and we had 7 teams. And it was like puzzle pieces. 2 years ago, we were invited to the D2 Summit, which is like the Super Bowl of cheer. We competed there, took 27th in the nation, which is incredibly good. We were very, very blessed for that. Again, earned a bid last year to the same event, which was double blessing. Even bigger pool to pull from at that point, and placed 17th in the nation. February of last year, we were in Anaheim, California, and for a national championship. And I met the owner of Rockstar Cheer. His name is Scott Foster. And just a complete by chance meeting. We never should have been in the same place at the same time. We started talking, further talked on social media afterwards. He invited us to be part of Rockstar Cheer. We just took on a brand that allowed us to better serve our clientele and to be way more successful than we may have been on our own. We have the backing of 15 gyms. Of someone who's been in the industry for 25 years. We have business support, we have choreography support, coaching support, of people who know how to get onto a world stage, which is our goal. This space that we're in right now became available 2 doors down, and the auction reservation worked with us to be able to get us in here and help us build out our floor, paint the whole gym to really make us successful. The biggest obstacle, hands down, to staying in business in this city, I believe, is the cost of space. Without doubt, it is absolutely limiting as to what I can offer based on the space available, because our long-term plan is to be right in the middle of Maricopa with a huge freestanding gym, because it'll be even more accessible than we already are. Because Maricopa is my focus, and it's where my kids go to school. It's where I live. We've had people commute in from Surprise, Casa Grande, Tempe, from all over the place. If you build it, they really will come. Honestly, Maricopa grit.
You saw Beth's team out there performing earlier. There she is right in the back. Wait, Beth. So Beth and her team, by all means, give her a round of applause. You know, Beth and her team of dedicated parents continue to work through their challenges, but they have done so by thinking outside the box and creating opportunities and opportunistic partnerships that, you know what, they simply didn't give up. They are pioneers in the truest sense of the word. And when obstacles seem too overwhelming and others are ready to give up, they find a way to flourish. When I think and watch our businesses go through this, I cannot help but think of this image. It's true. I know our young city and its small businesses face many of these hindrances every day. And we as a city council are working as fast and as closely with private partners in the development world to help alleviate some of these hardships. But it takes time to pull these developments out of the ground. Until then, putting in this kind of tireless private sector work inevitably leads to far greater results and successes than we as a government could ever hope for. Personally, my hat's off to Maricopa's small businesses, and to them I say, please don't ever give up. Now, most of you know that for the past few years during my State of the City addresses, I try to highlight some of the various departments in your city government and showcase some of the things that they are doing on your behalf. Their behind-the-scenes efforts you don't often get to witness firsthand, but make no mistake, they have a very profound effect on you, your family's lives, both indirectly and directly, and in my opinion, should be shared with you as often as possible. We are all very familiar with our courageous firefighters who we count on in case of an emergency. But did you know that they have been working behind the scenes this year to save you money? How, you ask? Well, this year, through their extensive administrative efforts, they were able to lower our ISO rating. An ISO rating stands for Insurance Services Office. This program reports their findings and rankings to all home insurance companies across the country. Their scale goes between a 9, which is the worst, and a 1, which is the best. For the past several years here in the city of Maricopa, our ranking was a 5. But as of September 1st of this year, we are now a 2. This means that depending on your home insurance provider, you will most likely be able to save between 10 and 15% on your yearly home insurance premiums. It's also important to note that that we were ranked amongst the nation's 46,000 fire departments, and we were ranked in the top 3.4% of all of them. That's pretty exciting. Congrats to our Maricopa Fire Medical team, and thank you for helping us all save just a little extra money. Another city department I'd like to highlight tonight is our Human Resources Department, or HR. Now, if you're like me, you're probably thinking, well, that's a little weird. I don't usually hear much from or about HR, especially the department, unless I'm in trouble at work, right? Well, no, don't worry. None of you are in trouble tonight. But there is so much more that people don't know about this department and what they all do for us. Did you know that this year alone, your HR department of 4 people hired over 99 new people, and in that process, read over 3,551 resumes? Now, personally, I can't think of anything better to do with my time than to read 3,500 resumes. But your HR department apparently loves it, which is great. And they are in charge of quite a few things. Your HR department is also in charge of crafting new programs that lead to enhanced worker safety. Safety of our city's employees has a direct effect on your pocketbook. This year, thanks to all of their hard work and the initiation of several new programs, such as safety trainings, new reporting requirements, and prevention processes, they were able to lower your city's workers' compensation insurance premiums by over $60,000. While it's understandable, by all means, well worth it. While it's understandable that these services fall within the regular scope or day-to-day purview of our Human Resources Department, what most people don't know is that they are also in charge of our wellness program here at the city. Now, these programs are intended to help your employees be healthier, lose weight, go to the doctor less, get off medications, and reduce sick time, along with many, many other benefits. These, in turn, increase overall employee morale, making our workers happier, more reliable, more efficient, and far more productive further saving you money. Now, by a show of hands tonight, when somebody next to them at work leans over and says to you, "Psst, let's go on a diet together," how many of you eagerly jump right up and say, "Yes, let's do this"? Yeah, I didn't think so. I didn't think so. Well, that's pretty crazy, huh? Thomas Jefferson said, "If you want something you've never had, you must be willing to do something you've never done." And that's exactly what we did. This year, we introduced a challenge that most of us would probably give our left arm to get out of attempting. We would all probably go to the dentist voluntarily, and we would probably have had surgery done with a spoon. We would even give away our firstborn child before we would voluntarily do what we asked our staff to try. We literally asked them to go on a diet for 30 days. Not just any diet, but something we called the Whole 30 Challenge. Believe it or not, the Whole 30 program literally has the power to change people's lives, or your life, in unexpected ways. This year, it changed the lives of 43 city employees who volunteered to participate, and together they lost over 420 pounds. Pretty impressive. Here are two of our winners, Detective Pamela O'Neill and Ricardo Martinez. As you listen to their stories, be sure to listen closely to what they say happened to them beyond just weight loss.
I did the Whole 30 challenge. I was really interested in the challenge. I've been on different programs. I have been trying to focus on my health for the past, it's almost a year now. Some of the things seemed really restrictive to me, so I thought it was going to be a challenge.
The biggest obstacle was just going through all the ingredients and making sure you don't add something that's not in Whole 30 or Whole 30 approved. It was a little difficult at first, but you get used to it.
I kind of felt fatigued, a little weak for the first 2 weeks. But after I hit that hurdle, that third week, I felt awesome. But then after you start feeling a certain way, you start feeling amazing, then you're like, okay, I need to make these positive changes to keep up this same feel good.
This is my basic salad that I bring every day. So it has grilled chicken, has a 50-50 mix blend, some onions, and Whole 30 approved zesty ranch, some water. That's it.
I lost about 16.5 pounds in a month time. Being healthy, you end up not being sick as much. Again, the positive attitude. For me, it's really like more mental clarity. I feel like I'm able to focus more on work. So it was definitely worth it.
My results, I lost 19 pounds. Get better sleep, more energy, feel better when I wake up. A lot of changes in moving around at work and activity-wise. It was some Maricopa Grit.
I did this with Maricopa Grit.
You know, as we embarked together on this Whole 30 program, these participants came to understand that it was about so much more than just weight loss. But rather, there were countless examples of what we like to call non-scale victories that were attained by each participant. People had more energy to endure the difficulties of their jobs. They found themselves with enhanced mental clarity. The mental focus and stamina increased. Many were able to reduce or stop taking medications altogether. Chronic aches and pains and internal inflammation were healed, and in all, it was simply miraculous, and it was all within 30 days. On the Whole 30 program, you focus on eating fruits and vegetables and proteins. Pretty simple, right? No, not right. To say there was a little apprehension, even a fair amount of fear amongst the candidates would be an understatement. To actually witness that the test of eating such basic foods for 30 days did literally strike fear and doubt into the hearts and minds of grown men and women was completely astonishing. I can't tell you how many people said to me before we started, "I can't do this. It won't work for me. I've dieted before. I can't give up bread or milk or sugar, or I don't have time." I know this because I was the one saying all these things. That's just the way it worked. And there were some others. Now, feeling just a little bit silly about my lack of resolve, I had a stark realization. I asked myself, why am I focusing all my energy on the things I don't have or can't have, or the fact that it may be hard to complete the challenge and achieve my goals? Instead, I said to myself, let's try being all in. After all, what's the worst that could happen? You can do anything for 30 days. I'm happy to report to you tonight that during my city-encouraged Whole30 adventure, I personally lost 25 pounds in 30 days. I won't tell you what we did to our kids and made them suffer through it, which was awesome. That's another story for another time. I've changed my lifestyle completely through this simple 30-day reset. While the weight loss was great, the non-scale victories taught me so much more. It taught me what affects my body the most in weight gain and other issues. For me, it's bread and sugar. It taught me how to read labels and how to know what the contents of my food are. It gave me the willpower to say no to sugar and food cravings that I was never able to resist before. Since the end of my Whole30, I have tweaked my diet to something that is customized and sustainable for my specific body. And since then, I have lost another 10 pounds for a total of 35 so far. Thank you. I am just a few pounds away from what I weighed when my wife and I got married over 15 years ago. Didn't think you could ever see it again, did you, dear? Well, to you, I say, if I can do it, so can you. So tonight I would like to introduce you to your first real challenge of the evening and welcome you to the first ever Maricopa Weight Loss Challenge. As I've said so many times before, it's more than just weight loss. This initiative is about one thing, getting our citizens healthy and living better lives. During this citywide challenge, we will use the Whole30 program as a template for success, in part because of its proven outcomes, its multitude of free resources, and the innate ability to help people reset their hormones, take control of their lives, while helping to identify what foods affect them individually. While the city will take the lead on this endeavor and set forth the program to follow, however, it is up to you to choose to participate. And whatever program you decide is best for your health is entirely up to you. We have also enlisted the help of these fine local businesses to help guide you through this new undertaking. Anytime Fitness, CrossFit Stand and Battle, Longevity Athletics, Maricopa CrossFit, and of course, Copper Sky. I highly encourage you to visit these businesses and speak with their ownership and trainers about their specific expertise. Learn from them, and they will help you on your path to accomplishment. We will have an official weight loss challenge website with all the rules and a Facebook page to help promote the lists of local restaurants with Whole30 approved meals, the sharing of ideas, success stories, recipes, and the all-important positive community encouragement. At the end of the 30 days, there will be prizes and awards, and in the coming weeks, more details will follow. So mark your calendars now. It's time to prepare. In the meantime, enjoy your holiday cookies. But as of Sunday, January 7th, it's go time. We will begin, and Maricopa, I challenge you to accept and overcome this obstacle. I know you can do it, and we will be with you there every step of the way. When things we encounter are hard, this philosophy is one that stuck with me throughout the years, and it has helped me when I start thinking that I simply can't do it anymore. The body achieves what the mind believes. So I ask you, do you believe that you can overcome your individual challenges in life? And do you believe that as a city, we can overcome them together? In my mind, no one personifies this type of raw, pure determination more than Mr. Pete Maciel. Here's his story.
My name is Pete Maciel, and I like to think myself as an ultra cyclist. I found I had a knack for endurance, and I raced mountain bikes. I had some good coaches that brought me along the cycling circuit, and I moved all the way to pro cycling. I wound up getting re-injured, and so I couldn't really do much of anything. I was down. They had the first mud run, and a friend of mine drove me over because I couldn't walk the quarter mile to the event because of my back. There was a lot of enthusiasm and just motivation, and it was just invigorating to watch everybody. I saw the mayor and I heard about the challenge and stuff. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm an ultra cyclist, it should be no problem to beat the mayor. And to my amazement, I did not beat the mayor. As a matter of fact, it took me almost 2 hours to do the mud run. I started the event and I ran about the first 100 feet and that was pretty much it. And I walked pretty much the rest of it. I did do every single event, every single obstacle. Overcoming obstacles is a big thing for me. And doing that last zip line, I wasn't sure if I could even hold on to the zip line, much less do it. And going through and finishing the zip line, I was hooked. Once I crossed the finish line, of course, the mayor's standing there. Of course, I did not beat the mayor. He probably beat me by almost an hour and a half. I told him then that I was going to beat him next year, which is this year. I did the Veterans Run 5K, which I basically walked. I did the Santa Claus Run, which I basically walked. I did run some more, though. On January 19th of this year, I started officially running. In April, I ran a full marathon on my own, and then I went and ran on June 4th the San Diego Rock and Roll Marathon. I am now scheduled to run the Phoenix Marathon and the Phoenix Rock and Roll Marathon next January and February. So I hope I can beat the mayor this time. I hope I can overcome that obstacle and really get that Maricopa grip going and just really hit it. And Mayor, I'm gonna get you.
Wave your hand, Pete. There's Pete. You know, when it comes to running marathons, this is a little more of what I actually look like, Pete. And that's before the race even starts. Usually they just give me my participation medal and tell me to go home so I don't injure other runners. But you know what? Pete really did say it best. Endurance and overcoming obstacles is a big thing for him. And it should be a big thing for us. As you can see, our theme this evening is a bit of a literal and figurative homage to the annual Maricopa Mud Run, which of course takes place later this month on Saturday, October 28th. Hope you're all signed up. If you're not, I know where you live. Maybe not, but I encourage you to sign up. When I look back at the very first time I was talked into doing the mud run, I remember the overwhelming sense of fear and trepidation that I had in thinking to myself, can I really run this? Should I even try? I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't know if I can, right? But I did do it, as have thousands of others. And what I learned from crossing the finish line at the end of the first mud run was that this was the very first step in an ongoing evolutionary education process that taught me that individually I could do hard things. And collectively, we can do hard things. And when we do those hard things consistently, we earn the right and develop the courage to overcome those roadblocks that we previously thought would be unconquerable obstacles. Sir Winston Churchill said it perfectly. Success is not final and failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Speaking about courage and dogged determination, what would a Maricopa City State of the City address be without at least a mention of the 347 overpass project's progress? Come on, that's what we've been working on. As you have all witnessed firsthand, this has been a long and arduous process. This simply did not happen because we wanted it to happen, or even because we needed it to happen. In fact, we had to work for it. We had to work continuously for years on end to make the transportation future we wanted a reality. So listen closely to Maricopa's first 3 mayors to hear what they and their councils had to do to help push this critical road project over the proverbial finish line.
It's always been a liability in our farming community. There's been tragedies throughout my whole life that I've witnessed. When we became a city, one of the first priorities on my personal list was to do something about that railroad crossing, because I knew as the city grew and got larger and larger, that crossing was going to be even more of a liability, especially with the school district being right next to the railroad tracks. One of the first committees that we created as a city was a committee to create an impact study for the grade separation. We're able to receive a federal grant of about $300,000 to do a study on the grade separation to see if it was needed. Well, that study was done, and lo and behold, it was unanimously decided by federal, state, and county officials, everybody involved, that yes, this needed an impact study, not only because of the liability of the traffic, but with the school district, the school buses crossing, the gas line that was underground on that railroad line. There was just so many serious impacts that were involved with this crossing. The recession came, and everybody ran out of money. And I remember Mayor Anderson telling me, you know, what's going to make this grade separation happen is I can see many trips ahead to Washington, D.C. I personally went to D.C. 9 times during my term on the council.
I served as mayor from 2004 to 2008. Because of our growth, then Governor Napolitano took an affinity towards Maricopa. She visited us twice. The second time I told staff I want her to be on the south side of the tracks. I want her to get stopped by Amtrak, and sure enough she did. And she got the point. She understood what was happening here in town. In February of 2006, we hosted the State Transportation Board here. And SRP gave us one of their Huey helicopters, and we took the board up and actually showed them some of the gridlock we're facing in town.
June 2008 is when I took office, and I basically hit the ground running. I started meeting with the director of ADOT, some of the State Transportation Board members, and in fact, even attended my first State Transportation Board meeting in June of that year. One of the things that became painfully aware of that during that time in those meetings is we're not on any of the list in our strategic projects. We just were a new city and we're not on any of the authorized lists from ADOT's 5-year plan, federal highway, etc. I spent basically the first 2 years of my term basically positioning the project to be on the list. And then I spent the next 2 years of my term completing some of the preliminary documents that are necessary to move the project forward, such as the design concept report, environmental assessment.
I left being mayor in 2008. That transportation board stuck in my mind. Canals turn and the rotation was coming up in 2010. I threw my hat in the ring, not knowing what would happen. My phone rang, unknown. I usually don't answer those, but I said, what the heck, I'll answer it. It was Governor Brewer. She's Mayor Anderson, like, yes, this is Governor Brewer. I'd like to appoint you to the State Transportation Board. I think the turning point for the whole project is when Mayor Price became mayor. I gave him one of my transportation cards and I said, I need your help. I need you at every transportation board meeting there in person. It's critical for the city, it's critical for the project. November of 2013, that's when the city hosted the State Transportation Board. It also was the night that Ulster Star opened. It was their grand opening. So there was a lot of traffic. The board was staying at the Harrah's Hotel, so they saw the needs and wants. We had the community come out and talk. When it was mentioned we had 300 plus buses and vans going across that track every day, the board just sat back, this is something that we've got to take a little more hard look at. Most projects are solely state or federal funded. Maricopa came to the board and said, we will help with that funding. And that was basically unheard of in any type of transportation funding or modeling. And it set the groundwork for advancing this project from how do you get into the 5-year plan with no funding to moving way ahead, as well as garnering the Tiger Grant. Those who are committed to making relationships with the board, with the staff at ADOT, that's how you get things done. And that's what really brought and pushed Maricopa over the hill, Maricopa grit.
It was really the true Maricopa grit that made it happen.
Now, while clearly that was a very informative video, the thing that stands out most to me in my mind is the fact that Mayor Anderson actually showed up to our interview wearing a suit jacket and a tie. That's what was so amazing to me. Wave, Mayor Anderson. There you go. Just kidding, and all joking aside, you've all heard me talk about the amount of work, the critical partnerships, and the extensive network that it took us just to get to this point. There is no doubt that this achievement will be transformative to our city and our region. So at long last, the fateful day has finally arrived for the construction dream to become a reality. So mark your calendars. Our anticipated groundbreaking is set for Monday, November 20th in the morning, and of course, you are all invited. You may or may not know this, but this year the city created a new city seal to accompany our other branding insignias. We tried to incorporate the various aspects of what our tagline means to use as a proud history, prosperous future. As citizens and guests of Maricopa tonight, I would like to give you all a little gift. This year we've created Maricopa's first ever challenge coin. Now it seemed appropriate given tonight's topic. Now if you have never been given a challenge coin before, they have historically been used in the military and are steeped in history and tradition. They are typically exchanged via handshake, and they really do have meaning. Different challenge coins have different meanings depending on the giver, the receiver, and the organization that is being represented. Traditionally, they are given to prove membership when challenged, to enhance morale, to recognize achievements, and are tangible sources of pride. It is for these reasons that I want each of you to have this gift through the customary handshake. I also have a challenge for you this evening, should you choose to accept your coin. I will talk more about that in a moment. For the past 15 years, the city of Maricopa has been persistently striving to do more with less, to build something great from nothing. We started with very humble beginnings, and we are still in our infancy compared to many other cities around us. But those humble beginnings and the long list of challenging circumstances and obstacles that we face each and every day, year after year, do not determine what we ultimately become. We do. We do this through the choices we make, the perspectives we choose, and to embrace the beliefs, the perspectives we choose to embrace and the beliefs we hold most precious. Here is someone that knows a little something about just that. Someone by the name of the legendary coach, Lou Holtz.
I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth, I know. I was born in Fallsby, West Virginia. And I went by where I was born last night, about 10:30. I was born in a cellar at home, delivered by Dr. McGraw. We had one bedroom for my sister, myself, and my parents. We had a half bath and a kitchen. 7.5 years we lived in that place. There was no welfare. There was no food stamps. There was no safety net. But I always had plenty to eat. Because every time I asked for seconds, my dad would say, no, you had plenty. But the reason I was born with a silver spoon, my dad had only gone to the 3rd grade. That's all the education he had. But why was I born with a silver spoon in my mouth? Because I was taught by my parents that life's a matter of making choices, wherever you are, good or bad, because of choices you make. Don't blame anybody else, but if you get an education, you're willing to work and overcome problems and difficulties, in this great country, you can amount to something. That's why I was born with a silver spoon. I was in this country and I was taught personal responsibility for choices you make. And when we talk about a commitment to excellence, that's a choice you make. What do you want to do? Having hopes and dreams and ambition. See, I think that is absolutely critical. Don't make the mistake I made. I've done a lot of dumb things, but let me tell you the one thing I regret. We went to the University of Notre Dame. We took a program on the bottom. We took it to the very top. And for 9 straight years, we went to a January 1 bowl, the sugar, the cotton, the orange, or the fiesta. Nobody's done it before. Nobody's done it since. We put it on top and we maintained it. That's the thing I regret the most. See, there's a rule in life, but then you're either growing or you're dying. The tree's either growing or it's dying. So's grass, so's a marriage, so's a business, so's a person. Doesn't have a thing to do with age. My birthday candles cost more than a cake. But it has everything to do, am I trying to get better? Am I trying to prove we got on top and say, you know, this is pretty good, let's maintain it. Let's not take any risk. We finished 2nd in the country at Notre Dame. Everybody called me an idiot. Guy finishes last in medical school, they call him doctor. That doesn't seem fair. When I left Notre Dame, I never thought I'd coach again. Where'd you go from Notre Dame? According to my mother, you go directly to heaven, you sit by the Pope. You don't coach anymore. And then I went to live in a town where the average age was deceased. And what I found out, I wasn't tired of coaching. You have to have something to hope for, something to dream. And even though you've done great things so far, what's going to happen now? I want to give you a simple plan. Life doesn't have to be complicated. I try to keep life simple. Do you realize there are only 7 colors of the rainbow? Only 7. Look what Michelangelo did with those 7 colors. There's only 7 musical notes. Look what Beethoven did with those 7 notes. There's only 10 numbers. Look what Bernie Madoff did with those 10 numbers. The point I make is it doesn't have to be complicated. See, you need 4 things in your life. If you don't have any of these 4 things in your life, you're going to have a tremendous void. See, everybody needs something to do. Number 2, everybody needs someone to love. Number 3, everybody needs someone to believe in. In my case, is Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. But the 4th thing you need in your life is you need something to hope for. There's never a right time to do the wrong thing. And there's never a wrong time to do the right thing. Just do what's right. I think it's right to be honest, right to be on time. See, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy life. Have fun. You're going to have problems. You're going to have difficulties. That's part of life. And don't tell people about your problems. Do you know that 90% of the people don't care? And the other 10% are glad you got them. So you're better off keeping yourself. You're going to have problems. But have fun with what you're doing. People say, did you have fun doing the ESPN? Not really. Because if you have fun being here, people have fun being around. Doesn't mean I don't do dumb things. And sometimes I wasn't real honest. Do everything to the best of your ability with time allotted. You know, ladies and gentlemen, not all of us be All-American. Not everybody can be first team. Everybody can be the best you're capable of being. And I want to tell you, if you want to fail, you have the right to fail. That's what's great about this country. You do not have the right to cause other people to fail because you don't do everything best your ability. When you join a spouse, you bring a child in the world, you join a business, you join a team. You have obligation, responsibilities, and you owe it to other people to do the maximum you can at each and everything you do. It's not complicated. And the last rule, to show people you care. And you walk in the room, your attitude, hey, here I am, look at me. I thought, no. Your attitude, there you are, how can I help you? I wish I knew those 3 rules when I was 21. I've used them for the last 40 years. There's a statue of me at Notre Dame. I guess they need a place for the pigeons to land, but if you go look at it, just don't look at 3 words on the pedestal. Trust, commitment, love.
Trust, commitment, love. This city's ability to achieve short and long-term successes are directly linked to the individuals that inhabit it and display daily these powerful ideals. Citizens, business owners, government, acting as partners that choose to see the obstacles that lie in front of them as temporary challenges to overcome, rather than to succumb to the belief that these difficulties are permanent and fatally insurmountable. Our city is filled with these types of inspirational stories, but we have to look below the surface of the calm waters to fully understand the sacrifice and the beauty that exists in these life's lessons. Sometimes we can even learn these life's lessons in nature. So allow me to read you a poem titled Lessons from an Oyster. There once was an oyster, whose story I tell, who found that some sand had gotten into his shell. It was only a grain, but it gave him great pain, for oysters have feelings, although they're so plain. Now, did he berate the harsh workings of fate that had brought him to such a deplorable state? Did he curse at the government and cry for election and claim that the sea should have given him protection? No, he said to himself, as he lay on a shell, since I cannot remove it, I shall try to improve it. Now the years have rolled around, as the years always do, and he came to his ultimate destiny stew. And the small grain of sand that had bothered him so was a beautiful pearl, all richly aglow. Now the tale has a moral, for isn't it grand what an oyster can do with a morsel of sand? What couldn't we do if we only begin with some of the things that get under our skin. I know that some of you probably look like this right now as you're ready to get out of here after listening to me prattle on all night. But if you can't tell, I love talking about our beautiful city. Before we go, will you take one moment, just 1 second, and do me a favor? Look deeply into the eyes of this Olympian. Focus on them for a minute. Do you see the intensity, the determination, the sheer grit that it will take to overcome the difficulties and win that race, or perhaps even at life? Louis Zamperini's remarkable life taught us that even at this young age, that when things are not going the way we want them to, or in the timeline that we desire for them to happen in, we can still make them come to life if we are willing to put in the work, endure the challenges, and simply never give up. So tonight, as you receive your Maricopa Challenge coin, I hope that you will accept my challenge. Will you be a little more patient, a little more forgiving? Will you strive to recognize the undue hardships that we go through here in Maricopa? I hope that each of you will take the time to educate yourselves and speak favorably on the amazing things, there's so many of them, that are happening around us each and every day. They are present everywhere. Sometimes we just have to change our perspective if we want to see them clearly. And finally, I challenge you all to individually exercise your talent, your stamina, and your sheer determination to succeed in making Maricopa the greatest city in the world. Louis Zamperini said it best: "I'd made it this far, and I refused to give up, because all my life I had always finished the race." That is what Maricopa Grit is all about. Finishing this race and building this city together. Thank you for coming this evening.